Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah, wa salatu salam ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Jawahir al-Quran wa Durr, the Jews of the Quran and Spells. Still reading from Surah Al-Ahzab. And we have been commenting on verse 33, addressing the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, but one can think of different parts of the verse applying to women in general, Muslim women. And let's basically read the last couple of verses, the verse before, and this particular verse to provide a context. أعوذ بالله السميع من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا نساء النبي لستن كأحد من النساء, wives of the Prophet, you're not like any other woman. إن اتقيتن فلا تخضعن بالقول فيطمع الذي في قلبه مرض وقلن قولا معروفا. If you are mindful, if you're God conscientious, if you're mindful, of course, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taqwa, and do not be overly effeminate in speech with men. Effeminate in speech, obviously, not with their husband, or those with sickness in their hearts may be tempted, but speak in a moderate tone. Speak in a moderate tone. Speak, let's call it, in an appropriate tone. On the side of seriousness. وقرن في بيوتكن ولا تبرجن تبرج الجاهلية الأولى وأقمنا الصلاة وآتينا الزكاة وأطعنا الله ورسوله إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم رجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. Settle in your homes. Settle in your homes. So the first thing is about the best place for a woman is her home. Does it mean that she never leaves? To the contrary, for example, the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, لا تمنعوا إماء الله مساجد الله. Do not prevent the women servants of Allah from the mosques of Allah. So they have the right to go to the mosque. And it's simply an example. One can speak about other sound traditions. We know from us that Asma bint Abu Bakr, sister of Aisha, anha, she used to go and fetch things from the land of her husband. Only as an example, we know that during the time of Umar ibn Khattab, a woman was responsible for what we call today the weights and measures in the market. One can see that women were part of the when there was a general call for people to go to the mosque. One of the wives of the Prophet responded by saying, when she was told, this is about men, like he called for men. If it says simply, it is not gender specific call, and she said, I'm Annas, basically in the hadith. And she said, I'm one of them. But it remains that it's not about going out to do something serious. It's something that you need to do. You are a physician. And I have given this example before, I think many times. Do you prefer that your wife or sister or mother or daughter, would you prefer that a male gynecologist examines her or a female? The answer that I got was always thus far is a female gynecologist. This means that they need to go to school, get educated, even beyond the being like a family doctor, being specialized. and they need to go and practice in hospitals. I'm just giving this as an example about the need for both the society at large. But when in the hadith, لا تمنع إماء الله مساجد الله, has uh, another phrase. It comes وليخرجن وهن تفيلات, and when they go to the mosque, it means also other places. They should not really wear perfume, which is intended to it could arouse men. At least it could basically send the wrong message. And if you go back to the verse, settle in your homes وقرن في بيوتكن ولا تبرجن تبرج الجاهلية الأولى, and do not display yourselves as women did in the days of ignorance, pre-Islamic ignorance. And one can find that in Tafsir ibn Kathir, he reported an interpretation of tabarruj, displaying themselves. He said that والتبرج أنها تلقي الخمار على رأسها ولتشده. So she will cover her head without basically tighten it, so it does not really cover her neck. It does not cover her jewelry, like her earrings and her whatever. ويبدو ذلك كله منها, so that all this will be shown. He says that this is, while this addresses the wives of the Prophet, but it's really for all the women of the all Muslim women. Now, not only women, many, not few, when they put a cover on their head, it became she could show 1/3, 1/2, hardly hanging on her bun, if you will, or ponytail or whatever, and it keeps sliding, so it would show all her head, and she keeps just putting back halfway, or without going into much details, with see-through clothing that hug their figures, and makeup and all, just like she knows if it's really intended. Does she do this at home for her husband, or is it when they leave the house? And this is all in public. And public is basically displaying herself before men who could potentially marry her. She shouldn't. Just think about potentially could marry her. So one might think that, this close relative, or this I am married already. Potentially anyone who could potentially. This is the not a mahram. وأقمنا الصلاة وآتينا الزكاة وأطعنا الله ورسوله, and establish prayer, pay the alms giving, obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger. Obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger, that's basically all the commands. And it's not about women. This, men should basically heed the call and understand the same thing. وأقيموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة, for them, for the women. وأقمنا الصلاة, this is It's very important to remember the masculine and feminine in this case, because here this nun and niswa, um, this suffixed n, if you will, it is plural feminine, but obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His message is with all the commandments in the Quran and the Sunnah, the do's and the don'ts. إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم رجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. One can notice that when we speak about the wives of the Prophet directly, it's the plural feminine, but then it shifts to عنكم, and this is now masculine plural, the meme, as suffixed at the end of عنكم. It's because now it includes the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Oh, they are Ahl al-Bayt. We spoke about a little bit about Ahl al-Bayt. Let me add. It's a very important issue. We mentioned before this that it does include the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It does include the family, both when we speak about Banu Hashim and Banu Abdul Muttalib. It does include, of course, the daughters of the Prophet ﷺ and the offspring. Specifically, we speak about the offspring of Ali and Fatima, Hassan and Hussein, and their children. Now, there are verses in the Quran about the use of al-Bayt in the al-Bayt in Ahl al-Bayt. For example, in the case of Sayyidina Ibrahim, Prophet Abraham, when the angels passed by Prophet Abraham on their way to the people of Lot, there are many details there, but I remember the context where they bring the good omen that Sarah will become pregnant, because already in terms of fatherhood, Prophet Abraham fulfilled that by when Ishmael was born to him from Hagar, and in this case it is Sarah, and ultimately the good omen, the good news that it will become pregnant and she'll give birth to a son whose name is Isaac. And Isaac himself, just I'm bringing different verses from different parts of the Quran, and Isaac will have a child of his own whose name is Jacob, which it's a different topic, but which would mean when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guarantees that there will be such a child and such a grandchild, it means that Isaac will live long enough to become a mature man who will get married and have a son of his own. That's the grandson, Jacob. It would make definitely the son who was to be offered, of course, replaced by the ram. The sacrifice was Ishmael, and it is impossible. It cannot be Isaac. One can even speak about your only son, the biblical narrative in Genesis, your only son, Yehidcha. In Hebrew, that was Ishmael, for the duration of about 13, 14 years, because Ishmael was born when Abraham was 86, Isaac was born when Abraham was 99, almost 100. And for the duration of these 13, 14 years, the only son was Ishmael. Once Isaac was born, none of them could be described as only son. That would be impossible. So the response of Sarah in the Quran, in Surah Hud, verse 11, Surah Hud, that's chapter 11. This is verse 72. She said, قالت يا ويلتى ألد وأنا عجوز وهذا بعلي شيخا. هذا شيء عجيب. Woe to me, am I going to give birth when I'm an old woman and my husband is an old man? This is a remarkable, strange thing. The angels responded by saying, قالوا أتعجبين من أمر الله رحمة الله وبركاته عليكم أهل البيت إنه حميد مجيد. رحمة الله عليكم وبركاته أهل البيت. This is really the why I have mentioned this particular verse, أهل البيت. She's included in the in this blessing, if you will, in this salutation, in this invocation, أهل البيت. The same thing when we talk about أهل البيت in this Surah Al-Ahzab, which would include the women too. The when they already just going quickly to the narrative about the family of Prophet Lot, peace upon him. The angels said, إلا آل لوط إنا لمنجوهم أجمعين إلا امرأته قدرنا إنها لمن الغابرين. So the first verse 59 of Surah Al-Hijr, إلا آل لوط, except that so they are going to punish the whole village, town. We know that this is a reference to Sodom and Gomorrah, and we know that this is about homosexuality, and the Quran addresses this directly. It's not a problem of hospitality, or it's absolutely not. So they said that they will punish. So it's a punishment that will cover the whole community, the people of Lut alayhi salam, except for the family of Lot, whom they will be saved. If we stop here and never read the rest, that will be a betrayal of the really of the meaning, because it says إلا امرأته. إلا امرأته, they basically except for his wife, that she was destined to be amongst those who will be included in the punishment. Which means Al-Lut, it includes the wife. Ahl al-Bayt, that includes the wife in the case of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And this is why this is important. I did say in the last session that there is of course it goes back to the Prophet ﷺ passing away and not appointing anyone in particular, did not name, not mention it to the community. The community was large enough. Everything was it's impossible that the Prophet ﷺ would nominate someone to lead the community and people would not know. And we know that there were prominent companions, and The Shiites would say that the Prophet ﷺ specifically nominated or appointed Ali bin Abi Talib, cousin and son-in-law, and this would make that branch, that family. Ultimately, you talk about the 12th Imamites, who we talk about Ali and his 12 descendants total. For the Sunnites, this is not about being a majority, or because definitely it began as a political position which developed over the years. I'm talking about the Shiites. It developed over the years. A massive post-revelational construct about Ahl al-Bayt. I would not refrain from saying that it became even cultish. And ultimately, certain branches of Shiism within for example, the Alawites, the Nusayriya Alawites, and they divinized Ali bin Abi Talib. For the Sunnites, it's meritorious, so deliberately it was left to the community, and practically the leaders of the Muslim community in Medina, both from amongst the migrant Muslims and the indigenous people of Medina, the Ansar, so Muhajirun, they met in the shed of Bani Sa'ida, and they chose ultimately Abu Bakr as the first caliph, as the first head of state after the death of the Prophet ﷺ. And over the years, the Shiites developed. I'm not saying everyone, but there is a certain systematic antagonism and hatred really towards Abu Bakr and towards Umar ibn al-Khattab, radiyallahu anhu. And the antagonism toward Abu Bakr became also antagonism towards Aisha, radiyallahu anha, his daughter. And this it means that they wanted to exclude her from being from amongst the Ahl al-Bayt. Ahl al-Bayt. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this verse, إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم رجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. Verily, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intends to keep the causes of evil, to purify away from you, away the whole al-Bayt, the women included, the wives, and purify you completely, O members of the Prophet's family. Now going back to the plural feminine واذكرنا, the known نسوة, واذكرنا ما يتلى في بيوتكن واذكرنا ما يتلى في بيوتكن من آيات الله والحكمة إن الله كان لطيفا خبيرا. Always remember what is recited in your homes of Allah's revelations and wisdom. Wisdom, it's basically the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the revelations, ayatullah, you talk about the Qur'an. Wal hikmah, that's the prophetic sunnah, the prophetic wisdom, the sayings and teachings of the Prophet. And in general, we talk about the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but not. One should understand that the sunnah directly, the sound, good prophetic traditions where the Prophet ﷺ, either it's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ or something that takes place in front of the Prophet ﷺ and he does not oppose what takes place in front of him, meaning that would be a sign of approval. And one should also understand that even if the text appears to be simple, directly the meaning is obvious. Muslim scholars, the jurists, could extract many meanings from a particular text. I think there's the next major topic is a very beautiful verse that speaks about the Muslim men and Muslim women directly. Muslim men, Muslim women, believing men, believing women, devout men and women, devout, being God conscientious, truthful men and truthful women, patient men and patient women, humble men, humble women. One might say, we'll talk about this inshallah in the next session, charitable men and women, charitable women, fasting men and fasting women, men and women who guard their chastity, and men and women who remember Allah often. For all of them, Allah has prepared forgiveness and a great reward. That's so. Maybe this would mean also talking about the role of Muslim women, Muslim men, and especially within the context of marriage also, especially when we talk about the dhakirin, وَالذَّاكِرِينَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا وَالذَّاكِرَاتِ, those who remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala often. Until the next session, inshallah, subhanakallah wa bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.